Is it going to stream? We've got excellent connection. All right, I assume it's streaming. Okay. So, great. Those of you that have had me before, you've seen this. In fact, you saw the whole thing yesterday. It's going to be slightly different for this. I've already done that. And well, for the sake of my online students, I guess I should do this again. So, Western Civ 2, about 1689. We're probably not going to go quite that far. Me again. I sleep poorly. If you need anything, let me know. Again, most of you are online, so email me, which we'll get to that. We actually talked about what is history last time. But actually, that is in our notes, so we'll get to that a little bit later. The who, what, where, when, why, and how. We'll go a bit further back this time for Alexander. So who? Alexander the Great. Awesome. Easy. What happened? He conquered most of the known world, which was like Greece and Persia. Also Egypt. But that was like barely anything. He walked in Egypt. They're like, oh, you're the king. And they're like, all right, cool. Persia, I see I got ahead of myself. When the 330s to 320s BCE, for the most part, I'm not going to hit you guys too much with dates. In fact, the first date you guys will need to know for me is, I believe, 404 BCE, when Athens falls. But you want to know that until chapter 2, I think is when we talk about. Yeah, that's very end of chapter 2. So you don't need to worry about that for a while. And then the why and how is why we're here. He was in his mid-20s, conquered most of the world, and most of why and how is still kind of up in the air. He had good cavalry, good infantry. He was very charismatic. He did a lot of subterfuge, but no one thing really explains how he was able to do that, because like Persia had a massive army. I mean, ridiculous army. This was a time when if you had an army of 10,000, that was substantial. The Persian emperor had a personal bodyguard of 10,000. You had like hundreds of thousands of Persian units in a single battle. Now that said, like soldier for soldier, the Greeks easily bested the Persians, because the Persians were like, here, go out in a loincloth and have a knife. But when you have hundreds of thousands of these assholes, it doesn't matter how good your armor is, you're going to get shanked. So, but it didn't matter. Alexander and his men just tore through them. Now, as all that being said, his death was, well, depending on how much you like Alexander, it was either really depressing or really funny. Do any of the three of you actually know how Alexander died?
Didn't he catch a disease or anything?
That was half of how he died. He had malaria, which everybody had a little bit of malaria back then. He drank himself to death. They had a big party. They all had a bunch of wine. And because he had a touch of malaria, which again, everybody had a little malaria back then, he died of alcohol poisoning at like 30 years old. Oops. Yeah. And then everybody was immediately like, all right, we're going to not do all this conquering. Because he was planning on going to like Arabia and into India, and all his generals were like, we're not doing this. We're not doing any of this. Okay, we talked about the historical lens again yesterday, but for this class, this is actually for the notes, um, which we'll talk about it more in the actual notes. But the idea of the historical lens is, again, the subjective view of history. Again, it's weird after doing American history for 2 days in a row. So during the Cold War, we'd look back at Sparta and Athens and say, well, Sparta lost eventually. Technically, Sparta beat the crap out of Athens, but eventually Athens lasted longer, and that's how we have all the art and culture from Athens, which is, when we think about ancient Greece, we're usually thinking about Athenian stuff. And now social equality is kind of the biggest thing. We look back and see, where were women and the lower classes usually treated better. Spoiler, usually not in Athens. Women were actually not entirely treated the same in Sparta, but they could own land. And when the men were gone, which was often, they ran things. In Athens, it was like 17th century America, where it's like stay in the kitchen, and if you show yourself, we'll beat you. Now, granted, Sparta was also the place where they had entire swaths of the country run by slaves because they didn't want to do agriculture. But that doesn't mean that Athens didn't have slaves. It's just most of their slaves were domestic laborers. It's just you can't pretend that, well, Athens didn't have slaves. That's bullcrap. Everybody in Greece had slaves. It's just that Sparta had so many slaves, they had to militarize to keep their slaves from rising up. So, give and take. Keep this in mind for later. So we have the history thing, why history, etc. All of you that aren't online have seen this. Those who have learned from history doomed to repeat it. But we're not actually going out and conquering Greece and Persia. But it is our legacy. And really, nobody really liked Alexander. When he died, Persia was cool with that. His own generals were cool with that. But despite all of that, he was one of the most powerful men in history. And, well, that's why we're studying history, is to figure out how all that happened. And, we're going to go through several individuals in history who had most of the world against them, yet they managed to shape it to their whim. And then we have my silly highlights thing. Lord of the Rings and all of that. And like I said, now that I've actually seen the movies, I could add the elf and dwarf aggressively flirting at each other. And to put the entire semester in a single paragraph, start with the empires of Mesopotamia rising and falling, Greece being overcome by the group from Macedonia, after nearly being destroyed by Persia twice. Then we have Rome rising, taking ideas from Greece, which I have some jokes in there about that. Eventually falling into the Middle Ages, rising and falling, and the plague with the Renaissance, exploration, religious revolution, yada, 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 which then leads into 104 with the Age of Exploration and all of that. So it's a whole thing. So, of course, can history help predict the future? Of course not. But it can help us see patterns of history because, again, we as humans work in patterns. Did I already miss? No. I was mentioning to my other class that, we as humans are pattern-seeking animals, which is actually why we have anxiety. we're apes that gave ourselves anxiety. It's actually from, way back when your ancestors, picking berries out of a bush, and the bush rustles, and out comes a leopard and eats your friend's face, and it's like, okay, well, the next time a bush rustles, you run like hell because you don't want to get your face eaten. So even if the bush rustles and you run like hell and out hops, say, a deer, it doesn't matter. You're going to run like hell every time the bush rustles because you saw your friend's face get eaten. And again, that has this fight or flight response over everything has given we Homo sapiens anxiety. Thanks, evolution. And then my quote it's a great quote, great image, they don't go together. So come to class. For those of you online, I have a thing for you to prove that you're actually paying attention. We'll get to that next week. So for the attendance policy, I actually forgot to talk about this yesterday. It's 4 class days in a row. So that's 2 weeks straight that you miss before I'm like, hey, are you actually in my class anymore? Now, if you come back, then I wipe the board and it's not a big deal. But if you need to miss like a lot of days or something's going on, just let me know, and it's fine. Again, for you folks online, because it's not that huge of a deal because you're online and you can check in whenever. But I am going to have an attendance thing. You'll see that when I put it up there. Try to check in at least once a week. But again, for those of you online who can come in and are able to, drop in when you can. That's cool. You're welcome to. For those of you here, if you can't make it, these will go up on Blackboard. The recordings will go up on Blackboard, so you technically won't miss anything. But yeah, I actually don't know how I'm going to even do attendance in this class now that I think about it. But if you can't show up, do. I like having some kind of interaction. So here's the thing. This is the book that I use. I don't know what edition it is now that I think about it. The thing's out of print. Many Europe's Choice and Chance in Western Civilization. This is volume 1 to 1715. By Dutton, Marchand, and Harkness. It went out of print last year, and I wasn't able to get my hands on anything new because this summer's been stressful. If you're not able to get your hands on it, I completely understand. If you can get your hands on like some PDF version or some online version or whatever for cheap and or free, I encourage you. If you can't, it's fine. Just like with every other class that I teach, it's all going to be up here on the board, but it all comes out of the book. In particular, this class, since this was the first class I ever taught way back at Tri-County Tech. There's a couple of, like with the papers, I'll say, hey, on this page, there's a, like especially for the second paper, I'll say, hey, on this page, there's this particular sidebar that talks about this, and you can use that as your jumping off point for the paper. It's not super necessary to have that. in order to do the paper. Like literally the second paper is about the high point of the Middle Ages, and there's a little thing that talks about that. That's like, in 1215, there were these things that happened. You don't need the sidebar for that. It's just like, hey, what part of the Middle Ages do you think were the best part? That's literally all you need, and you can just do that research online. And that's literally the end of the semester thing, so you don't need to think about that again until like November. Yeah, we'll get that later. But if you do manage to get your hands on the book, this is for all of you online as well. The way I do it, there's like big subheadings. That's usually like new slides, and anything in bold usually is something that I go into. All the stuff in between, don't worry about it so much. Do exams and do the papers. You need to do that. I'll put a poll online for this. I would very much like for everybody to try to come here to physically do the the papers. Words, the test, everything. At some point, because it's just easier for me, because I don't like the way that Blackboard does the test. If you can't make it, I can put the tests on Blackboard and use the lockdown browser and all of that. I'll put a poll online and we'll see how that works. For those of you that are here, I can just physically hand you the test and you'll be fine. Those of you that can't make it, we'll get it to work out. And if you can't make it on the test day, but if you can still make it up here, we've got a testing center for that. So it'll be okay. But if it's too much trouble and it's too far, because we're here in Lake City and a lot of you guys are Florence District 1, we'll work it out. I think I can use the testing center out at Francis Marion as well. So if that's easier for you, we can do that. So yeah, let me know. Come through exams with the papers, ask questions. That is also another reason why I like you guys being physically here in person, because you can ask me a question directly to my face. I don't think I'm getting any. No chats, no views right now at all either. I didn't. Yeah, actually, I just realized I didn't actually put the link up to anybody, so nobody knows it's running. I'll have to do that later. Yeah, because I can't watch the chat while I'm running the thing. So I can't tell if somebody's asking a question while I'm up here teaching, unless I can find some way to run that. I might be able to figure something out. And that would actually help me for my other classes as well. That's what I was thinking. I can, if I can get my laptop working again, I can just bring that in and plug it up and just pull up my stream. That is true. That's true. So I'll try and get that working. If you have any questions, again, here in person, it's easy. If you need to email me, we'll do that. In fact, we can do that right now. Yeah, riley.holt@fmarion.edu. I actually already had a student from 101. It's like, hey, I don't have any assignments. You don't have any assignments for me. I don't do that. But I will put stuff on Blackboard. In fact, I'll post this video on Blackboard for 104 once I get it done. Not so new to teaching anymore, but like I said, it's always a work in progress. I mean, like I just said, once I need to figure out how I can see chat while also doing the thing. Yeah. And then also, as we always need to end, no. Just no. I got a little off track in my previous class. I have actually watched Ancient Aliens, tried to watch Ancient Aliens, and it made me angry. I wasn't expecting that, because it was like, could the ancient people have built these stone monuments? Like, yes, they had the tools. They had the brain power to stack rocks. It's like, well, ancient astronaut theorists believe that it was the aliens that came down and did the thing. It's like, you stop insulting the people from like 1,000 years ago. They could have stacked rocks. I mean, what else were they doing? They were watching the stars. Like they aligned perfectly with the rising of Venus. It's like, what else did they see every night? The rising of Venus. Like, oh, we'll point them towards the. Made me angry. Anyway, let's do the syllabus real quick while my brain's not fried entirely. Where's that at? Display, duplicate, and I might be able to do, I'll go ahead and pull that up, because there's a few of these that I want to go over real quick. Syllabus. It used to be, oh, nope, that's actually the very, very old one. There's Tri-County Tech. This one? Wow, that's old. I mean, not as old as that other one. All right, good enough. Yeah, so yada, yada, yada. We're here Monday, Wednesday. It's 8:30, 9:45. We are not in 5095. Course description, course objectives, blah, blah, blah. Dark Ages. Actually, I've got a great video. Oh no, showing videos is going to be a pain in the ass since I'm trying to stream it to YouTube. Oh well. Oh great. Doing this again, are we? Okay. So here we have the course text. Again, if you can get your hands on it, that's great. It does not have to be the first edition. Again, whatever edition you can get your hands on. There's the ISBN numbers, which should help. I may put stuff on Blackboard. If I do, I'll let you guys know. We have the test, just like, again, the American history. They're all weighed the same. I'll drop one of them, barring the final. So if you mess up on a test, I can drop one. If you mess up on a paper, I can drop one. If you do well all the way through and you don't feel like doing the second paper, because that's when everything's due, that's cool. I'll drop the paper. If you do poorly on the final exam, but you've done everything else, I'll just not drop anything, and everything will weigh less, so it'll give you the best possible grade. That's just.
Can I take a picture of the textbook numbers?
The who?
The things for the textbook.
Yeah. I'll put this up on Blackboard as well, but yeah, you're welcome to take a picture.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I meant to have this up on Blackboard earlier, but I haven't. That's fine. No problem. Have I been getting... Just seeing what other messages I've been getting. Okay. There again is my email. Didn't I have it up at the top too? No, I didn't. This was slightly different. Tutoring Center. If you need a tutoring center, that's over on main campus, as is the Writing Center, Founders Hall. It was a lot easier when I could just say, well, shoot, if I was teaching on main campus, it'd be in the same building as the history department. So I could be like, hey, go downstairs to the to the writing center. It's kind of a pain in the butt. We're not in the same city. Attendance policy again. This is just, if you're not here for consecutive classes, I'll ask questions. But since this is a hybrid, I don't know. This is my first time teaching a hybrid course, so we're going to make it up as we go. You guys are my guinea pigs. Exams, once again, multiple choice, short answer. Short answers, once again, not an excuse for me to give you essay questions because I don't like grading essay questions. The short answers are short answers. If I asked you guys, how Alexander the Great died, malaria and alcohol poisoning. Like, literally that's it. If you gave me one of them, I'd give you half credit. And honestly, that kind of question is probably something I put in extra credit. Like that's a pretty high level. You giving me the two answers like that. Like that's a rare one. Usually it's even easier. Yada yada yada. Once again, the final exam will not be cumulative. It'll be everything since the previous test. Typically, since the third test, sometimes we might not get the third test done, and it will just be the third test. I might assign you some readings. We won't really be doing a lot of this. A lot of this is, once again, Dr. Kaufman, so don't worry too much about that. Blackboard, again, since this is a hybrid course, you guys will be doing a lot more stuff on Blackboard. You guys in here don't need to worry about that too much. But, there will still be stuff on Blackboard you'll need to check out. I'll be putting the syllabus up on Blackboard. If you ever miss a day, bloody hell. I'm going to mute this. Okay. Yeah, that doesn't mean anything to my online students, so they don't need to hear it. Right, Blackboard's important. I'll be putting up the syllabus, video after each time we do a video. After each chapter, I'll be putting up the PowerPoint for each chapter. After 3 chapters will be the tests. I'll be putting up a study guide for each test. I think that's it. Let's see. Academic integrity. Don't do a plagiarism. If you need to do a quote, put quotations. If you're paraphrasing, cite. Just cite. Cite. You can't oversight stuff. I had a student who I maybe could have said oversighted their stuff, but they were being cautious, and that's fine. I was telling my students last time, and I think I might have scared a few of them. Plagiarism's technically a crime. So if you were to really blatantly, maliciously plagiarize stuff, like copy and paste whole sections into your paper without citing it, I had a student who just copied a document or a whole article and just made it their paper and handed it to me. I had the students who just gave 2 or 3 students who handed me the exact same paper. Step 1, you fail that assignment. Step 2, you can be kicked from the class. Step 3, you can be kicked from the college. Step 4, if you're a repeat offender, it can go on your permanent record and you can be barred from any college. It's a crime. as I was telling my students last class, if you've seen H. Bomber Guy's like 4-hour video on plagiarism, he discussed like 2 or 3 YouTube creators who have blatantly stolen their content and put online, and both of them are gone now. Just destroyed their credibility, and all their subscribers are gone, all their Patreon money's gone. Just, this is, again, it's technically criminal because you're taking people's work, people's information, and pawning it off as your own. Now, all that said, if you were to put some information in your paper and forget to cite it or cite it incorrectly, I'm not going to throw you out of the college. I'm not going to give you a 0. I might say, hey, this was supposed to be cited. Now, if you do, like I said before, and like give me just a copy-pasted article, then I'm going to have to ask you what you were doing. But for the most part, with this sort of thing, give me a works cited page. Make sure you cite anything that you take from other sources. Again, you cannot oversight. And if you use any words directly, quote it. And in history, quoting is good because you're taking words from somebody who is really important in the field, and you're using them in your document, in your paper, and saying, hey, look, this applies to what I'm doing. And for some reason in history, that looks good. Because you're saying this professional's words fit what I'm doing. I don't want to scare anybody with this, but it's better to see it now than to be like in a 300-level course and have your professor grilling the hell out of you during your final presentation. I watched a student nearly pee his pants at the front of a class because he missed a period in his works cited, because that's technically plagiarism. And again, the professor was like, this is technically plagiarism, and I could technically get you in trouble. But I'm not, because this is a college course. But I just want to let you know. It's bad, y'all. It's scary. Oh, that was actually it. Yeah, so don't do a plagiarism. Let me pull up this last thing, since we've got a little bit of time left, and I want to just go over this real quick. Keep changes. So this is actually the first chapter that we'll be starting. And when I started at Tri-County Tech, she handed me this book, and it's like, okay, go. Like 3 weeks before classes started. I had no idea what the hell I was doing. So I just threw everything together. So I was like, all right, come to class. Here's how I'm going to grade and your test and writing. And so it was just all your intro here. What is history and all of that. And so I did all of that. So, oh, yes, we're going to talk about Hannibal as well, because I really like Hannibal. Second Punic War in Italy, the years, and why the Punic War happened. There's a whole lot to that, and why Hannibal was a big deal. And again, we're going to have videos for that, which, again, now that a lot of it's online, it's going to be a little bit frustrating, but we'll see what happens. Okay, so we talked about what history is as a definition. So, which of these following structures is not historical? So we've got Stonehenge, the Colosseum, and the Continuum. I used to use the Tri-County Tech building, but now that we're in the Continuum, we're using the Continuum. Which of these is not a historical structure, and why? Why?
It's only I think it's only a few years
It's 6 or 7 years old now. I started when it was built. I started when it was ugly like this outside. No. It's got history. It's been here 6 or 7 years.
Wait, what was the question again?
Which of these is not a historical structure?
Is it the one with the rocks? Because they don't have like a real meaning to them.
I mean, they've got meaning, but you're correct about half of it. It is Stonehenge.
Yeah, but like they don't have like, they're just kind of there. They don't have like a history. They don't, like, do they? Like a real history?
Right. What is so what is history?
Like, history's when it's been there, but like it has a story, right? I guess.
You're right on it. I mean, you're correct, but I'm looking for a specific word. You're so close. I mean,
It has a reason to be.
it's got a reason. People put them there, but you're so close. It's a story. What is the story?
Like the reason why they got there?
Well, they have.
Question.
Oh, you're all so close. It's eating me up.
We don't know how they got there.
We don't know. Why do we not know?
Because we weren't there.
Well, we weren't there for the Colosseum either.
No one wrote like anything about it.
That's why nobody wrote it. Because they wrote about the Colosseum because they had writing. They wrote about this. I mean, we've got all sorts of freaking records about this. But there was no writing when Stonehenge was built. That was prehistory. History as a definition is written record. That's it. Yes. Because technically stories can still exist as oral tradition, but history is written record. And that's where we're actually going to start on Monday, is with like prehistory, with like cave paintings and pottery and all of that, which is beyond the scope of history. But yeah, that's what I mean as a definition of history is written record, which is why today, 2024, there are still prehistoric tribes. There are still places in the world where there's isolated tribes that don't have written record, and they're technically prehistoric. So yes, very good. We got there. I mean, you had it, but I was just like, give me the word I need. Very good, thank you. You had it. We pulled it apart. There's the historical lens again, which is just, history based on present-day events, Roman Republic, Roman Empire, Revolutionary America, Athens versus Sparta, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, so we've already seen that. And that's as far as we're going to go, because this next one is getting into the actual notes. So I just wanted to talk about this for sure, because I definitely like looking at those. Although I feel really bad that the image I have of Stonehenge is really poor. So yeah, that's it for today. We're done pretty early. Since you've all seen my intro PowerPoint already, we were able to get through that pretty quick, so I figured we'd look into the first PowerPoint a little bit. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, let me know. If you guys need to email me, that's cool. We'll start proper on Monday. I really hate that they start us on a Tuesday the first week, but what are you going to do?
Supposed to come Monday, correct?
Right, yeah.
I was like,
I was laying there Monday too. I was like, I'm not supposed to be there today, right? And I've done this for 7 years now. It's like, I'm not supposed to be there. No, I've done this for 10 years, counting Tri-County.
I was very confused. I was like, Carolyn, am I supposed to be?
I couldn't sleep Monday night because I was just anxious. I do this every semester.
I didn't know I wasn't supposed to be here. I came and I was just like, where is everybody?
Oh, it happens every semester. Happens every time.
And I was over getting my